بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. وعنده مفاتح الغيب لا يعلمها إلا هو ويعلم ما في البر والبحر وما تسقط من ورقة إلا يعلمها ولا حبة في ظلمات الأرض ولا رطب ولا يابس إلا في كتاب مبين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد كلما ذكرك وذكره الذاكرون وكلما غفل عن ذكرك وذكره الغافلون. Alhamdulillah, we continue through our Imam Mullah Ali Qari rahmatullahi alayhi's text Bidayat al-Salik fi Nihayat al-Manasik. In today's lesson, inshallah, after having covered the obligations of Hajj, which we did yesterday, today's lesson we're going to go through the wajibat. Okay, so we've done the obligations, the fara'id, and we know the ruling of the fara'id. If you miss any of the fara'id of Hajj, then you all learnt yesterday that your Hajj becomes nullified. And an individual cannot do anything to make up for that. You simply have to do qada. You have to make up for that Hajj in the next year. The wajibat, which we're going to do today, these actions can be made up, i.e., there are things that we can do to make up if we miss any of these actions. So we're gonna discuss that, inshallah. First of all, we discuss the wajibat themselves, and the Imam lists wajibat. He lists 22 wajibat, 22 wajibat of Hajj. And when we talk about wajibat here, this is including wajibat of the Umrah, wajibat of the Hajj itself, okay, and wajibat of Tawaf, i.e. all the wajib actions basically. And likewise, wajibat which are in your Safa Marwa, all the wajib actions in Umrah, in the Hajj, in the Tawaf, Safa Marwa, all of those, we're going to mention all of them one by one, inshallah. So 22 wajibat which you must keep in mind when performing the Hajj. Number one, the first wajib action then, al-ihram min al-miqat, to put on your ihram from the miqat point. Okay, la ba'dahu, not after the miqat. So for an individual who is traveling towards the Haramain, or towards the Haram in particular, the Haram of Mecca, you cannot cross the miqat point without being in a state of ihram. Okay, if you're intending to visit the Kaaba, you can't cross that point without having an ihram. If you do so, you will have to give a dam. You will have to give a sacrifice to make up for that penalty, to pay for that penalty. Okay, so wearing the ihram before the miqat or from the miqat point itself. And practically speaking, I mean, the fiqh books mention, okay, the people of Yemen have this miqat and the people of Iraq have this miqat. Again, practically speaking, for us, you travel on your flight. There's two ways you can do this. If you're on Saudi Airlines and you're flying direct, they will announce before you're going to cross the miqat point, and before that, you simply go, put your ihram on, make your intention, read your two nafil, and you're in ihram. Or if you want to do it before you board the flight, you can do it from England. Those that have a connecting flight, what they do is when they get to the place where they're getting their second flight from, they freshen up there, put their ihram on there, and then make their way towards Makkah. This is the most practical way. So you wear your ihram. And this doesn't matter whether you're performing Hajj Qiran. There's three types of Hajj which we're going to discuss: Qiran, Ifrad, and Tamattu'. So we're going to talk about each type of Hajj and define each one type of Hajj. But it doesn't matter what type of Hajj you're performing. Okay, you have to put your ihram on from the miqat point. Okay. Okay, then that's the first wajib. Number two, as-sa'yu bayna as-safa wal-marwa. The second wajib is the sa'i, to perform the sa'i between Safa and Marwa. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam, he said, "Is'aw fa inna Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kataba alaykum as-sa'ya." Perform the sa'i, for indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed it upon you. So this is also a wajib to perform the sa'i. Next, number three, then al-bidayatu min as-safa. So this is a wajib of tawaf itself. To start your so wajib of sa'i itself. To start your sa'i from Safa. Okay, so to start the sa'i from Safa, and this is a wajib as well. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Ibda'u bima bada Allahu bihi." Allah in the Quran says, "Inna Safa wal Marwata min sha'airillah." Safa and Marwa are from the signs of Allah. So what did Allah begin with? Safa. The Messenger of Allah said, "Begin with that which Allah has begun with." So we start with Safa. And lots of people who haven't been for the first time always get this confused. It's Safa to Marwa 1, Marwa to Safa 2, Safa to Marwa 3, Marwa to Safa 4, and then Safa to Marwa 5, Marwa to Safa 6, and then 7. Okay, so you should start at Safa, you will end at Marwa. Okay, you will start at Safa, you will end your sa'i at Marwa. If you've ended up at Safa again, then you've done something wrong. You've lost count, or you've done too many, or you've done too less. Okay, so that is very important for us. Easy way to keep count of it. Carry a tasbih in your hands. Okay, and just move the beads along, or a counter, and each time you complete a circuit, just count it so that you keep track of how many you're performing, and you can do the same for the tawaf as well. Okay, so that is also wajib. Okay, the next wajib then, istidamatul wuquf bi'arafa ila al-ghurub wa wuqufi juz'in min al-layl. The next wajib of Hajj is to maintain the wuquf of Arafah. So yesterday we said that remaining in Arafah, doing the wuquf of Arafah, going to Arafah for any time between after Zawal on the 9th until the start of Fajr on the 10th, being in Arafah at any time for even a moment in that period is fard in Hajj. However, it's wajib, that's the bare minimum, yes, but it's wajib for a person to remain in Arafah, to do a stay in Arafah ila al-ghurub, until sunset. So staying there until sunset. So this is for a person, obviously you go there during the daytime, preferably you'll get there before the Zawal or after the Zawal, preferably before, and then you will remain there, okay, for the whole day until the sunset, until ghurub. وَوُقُوفِ جُزْءٍ مِّنَ اللَّيْلِ. And likewise then, when you're remaining until sunset, it is part of that wajib is to remain in Arafah for a portion of the night as well, even if it's a moment. So Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi, he has explained, okay, فإن وقف جزءا من النهار أجزأه وإن وقف جزءا من الليل أجزأه. The Imam explains that if an individual وإن وقف جزءا من النهار بعد الزوال دون الليل كان عليه دم وإن وقف جزءا من الليل دون النهار لم يجب عليه دم. The Imam says rahmatullahi alayhi, Imam Abu Hanifa has explained that when you stay there for the portion of the day, okay, and you don't stay there for the portion of the night, so you didn't stay there for a portion of the night, i.e. after Maghrib, you will have to give a sacrifice then. You'll have to give it dam because you've missed the wajib. Okay. But if you remained after Maghrib for a moment and you weren't there the whole day, for example, you wouldn't have to give a sacrifice because you fulfilled the wajib. Okay. So remaining there after Maghrib for a moment, i.e. remaining there for a portion of the night, this is also wajib. Okay. The next one then, والوقوف بمزدلفة بعد طلوع الفجر ولو ساعة. Staying in Muzdalifah. So after Arafah, what happens is you start to make your way towards Muzdalifah. We're going to do this step by step, but you will make your way towards Muzdalifah after you've done your wuquf fi Arafah. You don't perform Maghrib in Arafah. You stay there until Maghrib and remain there for a portion after Maghrib as well, but you don't perform your Maghrib in Arafah. You will perform Maghrib and Isha both in Muzdalifah. Okay, at Isha time. So that we're going to talk about that later. But then going to Muzdalifah and staying there in Muzdalifah now. Okay, and ba'da tulu' al-fajr, staying in Muzdalifah that night, and staying there after Fajr as well, after the rising of Fajr as well. This is also wajib, even if it's for a moment. Okay. And like I said, delaying the Maghrib and the Isha until you get to Muzdalifah, that's also wajib as well. This is very important. You know, the joining, the combining of the Dhuhr and the Asr at Dhuhr time in Arafah, and the combining of the Maghrib and the Isha in Muzdalifah at the Isha time, that is wajib. You cannot separate those prayers. Okay, so that must be done as the Prophet ﷺ did that. Okay, the next wajib then, Ramyul Jimari fi ayyamihi. The next wajib, what number are we on? 6, yep. Ramyul Jimar fi ayyamihi, to do the stoning of the Jimar, i.e. the stone pillars. Okay, you have 3 stone pillars. Stoning them on the days of the stoning. Okay, this is also wajib. And part of that wajib is you can't delay the stoning, the Ramyul Jimar of that day until the next day. So there has to be the stoning on each of the 3 days. So like I said, when we go through the step by step, we're going to talk about the stoning. The stoning you do for 3 days. You can't delay the stoning of one day to the next day. Okay, you do that, you'll have to give a sacrifice. So the stoning has to be done each day. Okay. Just something to note with the stoning. Okay, there is a particular, it shouldn't be done with, in a dishonorable or a disrespectable manner, or in a manner that is a person loses control. Be conscious that there are people around you. You do not wish to hurt them. That's very important. And also, you collect these stones in Muzdalifah. So that is the sunnah of the Messenger alayhi sallam. When you're camping at Muzdalifah the night before, the idea is that you collect the stones there, okay, and you take them with you to do the rami of the jamarat, to stone the jamarat, and then you stone them. So you take them from Muzdalifah. So that's what's done. What a person can do, if they may not find stones, can they take stones from another place and pick them up, put them on the floor in Muzdalifah and pick them up from there? That is also permissible, in case you don't find anything there. And the person should not break the stones. You need to collect a number of stones for each pillar. We're going to talk about this when we talk about the Ramyul Jimar. But what shouldn't be done is breaking stones into pieces and then using those pieces. They should be, the stones should be left intact. All right, then. The next wajib, al-halq or al-taqsir, to shave or to shorten the hair. To shave or to shorten the hair. This is a wajib of ihram. You cannot exit ihram without shaving the head or shortening the head. What is the minimum amount which is permissible? Rubu' al-ra's, a quarter of the head. So at least a quarter of the head, okay? فإنه لا يخرج منه إلا بحلق ربع الرأس أو ما يقوم مقامه من التقصير وغيرهما في حال العذر. Mullah Ali Qari explains that what you cannot leave the state of ihram except by shaving a quarter of the head or that which is equivalent to it from the shortening. Yani when you either you shorten or you shave the head in its entirety, but the minimum that has to be done for that to be valid is a quarter of the head. Okay, the amount that your hand will cover, that's a quarter of the head. So that is the minimum. Of course, nobody's going to do that, but you shave it all, isn't it? Or you shorten it all, but that's just the minimum for the fard to be fulfilled. Okay, next then. والحلق والتقصير عند الإحلال, and you do this when you're removing the ihram. You do this when you're removing the ihram. وطواف الوداع. Okay, the next wajib then. طواف الوداع. This is the farewell tawaf. The farewell tawaf. طواف الوداع. Okay, but this is wajib for who? لغير المكي ولمن في معناه. This is wajib for somebody who is not a Makki. Yani a Makki is not going to do a farewell tawaf, are they? Because they live in Makkah. So, yani an individual who is an afaqi. Afaqi means they are not a person who lives in Makkah. That individual, okay, they will perform the tawaf al-wada'. That farewell tawaf is wajib upon them. Okay, next. والمشي في الطواف وفي السعي عند القدرة. The next wajib, to perform the tawaf and the sa'i walking by foot. To perform the tawaf and the sa'i by foot. Whether that's for Hajj, whether that is for Umrah. عند القدرة. Only when a person has the ability to do so. Okay? وإلا فيحمل. If you don't have the ability to walk, if you don't have the ability to perform it physically yourself, then a person can be carried. And all these modern forms, we got the scooters now, okay, wheelchairs, whatever it is. If a person is physically not able to perform tawaf or sa'i with their own, with their own ability, all of these means can be utilized. Okay, but the excuse has to be a valid shar'i reason. Okay, so if they don't have the ability to walk, then all of that can be utilized. Yes.
If one's able to do some of it and then not able to complete it,
yeah.
Is it wajib for them to walk?
Yeah, whatever they have the ability to do, they should do. If it's wajib to do so. The only scenario would be if they are fearful that doing that amount will cause them more detriment to their health or severely weaken them, then they should just use the transportation or whatever is available. Otherwise, yes, if they have the ability to do some, then they should do it standing by foot. Okay, the next wajib then, وَرَكَعَةَ الطَّوَافِ. The 2 rak'ahs after your tawaf is also wajib. Okay, 2 rak'ahs after your tawaf. فإنه يجب لكل طواف ركعتان عندنا وليس له زمان ولا مكان يتعين فيه فعله. The Imam says, rahimahullah, it is wajib for every tawaf to perform what? 2 rak'ahs, according to Imam Abu Hanifa. But there is no time stipulated for this, neither is there any makan stipulated for this. Yani an individual can perform this in the haram, an individual can perform this outside of the haram. An individual can perform this during the Hajj, they can perform it after their Hajj. They can perform it on Umrah, they can perform it after their Umrah. There is no time or place stipulated for this tawaf, for these raka'at of tawaf. وَالْأَفْضَلْ أَنْ يَكُونَ عَقِيبَ الطَّوَافِ. However, it is preferred that they do those raka'at immediately after the tawaf. إِلَّا إِذَا كَانَ وَقْتَ كَرَاهَةِ النَّفِلِ فَيُؤَخِّرُهُمَا إِلَى طُلُوعِ الشَّمْسِ أَوْ غُرُوبِهَا. However, if it's a makruh time, this is important. If it's a makruh time, do not perform your nafil tawaf. do not perform your 2 rak'ahs after your tawaf. If it's a makruh time, delay that. Okay, so if it's maghrib, if it's the setting of the sun, okay, then let the sun set, perform your maghrib. After the maghrib, you can perform your 2 rak'ahs. If it's the morning time and the sun is rising and has not risen yet, let the sun rise. Let the sun rise. Then you can perform your nawafil or your 2 rak'ahs. Where the Imam says here something, إلا أنه يصليهما بعد فرض المغرب قبل السنة إذا كان في الوقت ساعة وإلا فيقدم السنة عليهما لأن وقته موسع وإن كان في الرتبة مقدما. The Imam says, if you've just finished your tawaf and it's the end of Asr time, Zahid, you're going to wait for Maghrib now, isn't it? The Imam says, when you wait for Maghrib, perform your fard of Maghrib, and these raka'at of tawaf, perform them first. Then do the sunnahs of Maghrib. And this is afdal. Why? Because they are of more importance than your sunnahs of Maghrib. Okay? And that's if you have enough time. If there's very less time, maybe Maghrib is about to end, then you perform your sunnahs, then you perform your raka'at of tawaf. ثم الأفضل أن يسليهما خلف المقام أو داخل البيت الحرام أو الحطيم أو المسجد أو الحرم. You perform these 2 rak'ats where behind Maqam Ibrahim عليه الصلاة والسلام. And Maqam Ibrahim, as you all know, is that chamber, small golden chamber, which is in the Mataf area. In there are the stones upon which Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam stood in order to build the Kaaba, and his footprints are in those stones. So that is the Maqam Ibrahim, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a hukam, وَاتَّخَذُوا مِن مَقَامِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مُصَلَّى. Take the Maqam Ibrahim and make it as your musalla, yani your place of your direction of worship. So then you should perform these 2 rak'ahs behind Maqam Ibrahim if there is space. That's going to be very difficult on Hajj most likely. Okay, so you can perform it behind the Maqam Ibrahim if possible, or dakhil al-Bayt al-Haram, anywhere inside the Bayt al-Haram, yani the Kaaba, any area of the Kaaba will be fine. If you can't find it there, then anywhere in the masjid or anywhere in the haram, perform it anywhere there. Okay, it will be jaiz in all of those places. Okay, the next wajib of Hajj, at-taharatu fi tawaf. To have tahara in tawaf is wajib. Yani at-taharatu min al-hadath al-asghari wal-akbar, to be in a state of ritual purity, major and minor ritual purity. Yani a person should be in a state of wudu and ghusl, okay, during the tawaf. Therefore, a woman who is on her menstrual cycle, the Prophet ﷺ told them, those, and if you do, either lots of women take the option of using medicine or using the contraceptive pills to delay the onset of the menstruation cycle so that they can perform their Hajj as normal. If that's not the case, or if a person starts their cycle regardless of taking their medicine, then you don't perform the tawaf. And this is the hukam the Prophet ﷺ gave to Sayyidah Aisha. The Messenger of Allah told Sayyidah Aisha, perform all the actions, don't perform the tawaf. Because entering the masjid when you are in this state is not permissible. So you don't perform the tawaf. She will give a sacrifice. She will give a sacrifice then. Okay. And now, if there's a situation where she's going to run out of days, for example, then perform the tawaf, okay, and then you have to give a sacrifice for performing the tawaf without tahara, okay. And because if she doesn't perform that tawaf, particularly the tawaf rukn, the tawaf ziyarah, that's a fard of Hajj, she won't be able to take off ihram. She'll have to remain in that ihram for the whole year now until she comes next year to do qada. So that's a big problem. So in that hal, then what the ulama say is that she performs the tawaf and she will give a dam, a sacrifice, to make up for not being in a state of tahara. Then at least she can finish her ihram. She take off ihram and complete her Hajj. Okay. Okay, next then. والتيامن فيه بألا يكون على وجه التياسر المسمى بالتعكيس ولا بالتقليب المعبر عنه بالتنكيس. The Imam says rahimahullah, and also a wajib of the tawaf in your Hajj and your Umrah is tayamun. Tayamun means what? Tayamun means that you circle the Kaaba clockwise or anti-clockwise? Anti-clockwise, Hisham. You circle the Kaaba anti-clockwise. Okay, so that is also a wajib. All right, here's something very important. لا يجعل وجهه إلى جهة البيت النفيس ولا بالتدوير. The Imam says a person during tawaf should not put their face towards the Kaaba, neither their back towards the Kaaba. So do not turn completely around, neither face towards the Kaaba. Any part of your tawaf which a person does facing the Kaaba, that will have to be repeated. Okay, so if a person is facing the Kaaba and they do whatever amount of tawaf they did like that, they would have to go back and do it again. Okay, so with the left shoulder facing the Kaaba and the right shoulder out. Okay, anti-clockwise. So you cannot face the Kaaba when you're doing the tawaf. Neither turn the back towards it. And this is also a wajib for the validity of the tawaf. Okay, وَسَطْرُ الْعَوْرَةِ فِيهِ, covering the awrah. I mentioned this yesterday. This is also a wajib. لو ترك سطر العورة فيه بلا عذر يجب عليه الدم. If you don't cover the awrah, or if any part of the awrah becomes exposed, then a person will have to give a dam. They will have to give a sacrifice. Okay. And this is in the tawaf. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Ala la yatufanna bil bayti uryan." The Messenger of Allah ﷺ, he said, no naked person should perform tawaf at the Kaaba. And this was the Jahili practice of the mushrikun. They would make tawaf without any clothing. The Messenger of Allah prohibited that and forbade that. When the Fatah of Makkah took place, all of that was stopped by the Quran. So if any part of the tawaf is done with the awrah exposed, okay, and the tawaf, when we talk about the awrah being exposed, what's the amount? A quarter of a limb. Okay, so the person, this is something that each person will assess themselves. A quarter of a limb. If that much becomes exposed, okay, for a duration of the tawaf, okay, you will have to give a sacrifice. وطهارة, next then, وطهارة قدر ما يستر به عورته من ثوبه فيه. You know, those that amount of cloth which is covering your awrah, for that cloth to also be tahir. This is also wajib. Okay. Okay. Performing the tawaf ziyarah. Now you know the tawaf ziyarah is what? Fard. It is fard. There are two opinions amongst the ulama. Some of the ulama have said that the first 4 circuits of the tawaf are fard, the remaining are wajib. However, many other ulama have said that, in fact, all of the 7 circuits of the tawaf ziyarah are what? Are fard. Okay, on the opinion that the first 4 are fard, then the remaining 3 will be wajib. Okay, but the majority of the ulama, Mullah Ali Qari says, وَالْجَمْهُورَ عَلَىٰ أَنَّ السَّبْعَةَ فَرْضٌ. The Imam says that the majority of the scholars are of the opinion that the 7 circuits of the tawaf ziyarah specifically, they are all fard. Tawaf that you do, the first 4 circuits are wajib. The remaining 3 are sunnah. No any other tawaf, the first 4 circuits are wajib, the remaining 3 are sunnah. Okay, so if a person didn't complete a tawaf for any reason, mathalan, they didn't do the remaining 3, they got ill, something happened, whatever happened, would they have to give a sacrifice? They would not have to give a sacrifice. they can do the halq, they can do the sa'i, do the halq, and the umrah will be done. Okay, but a tawaf ziyarah, all 7. Okay. Next then, what tawaf wara al-hatim, to perform the tawaf wara al-hatim, outside of the hatim. Okay, the hatim is the semicircle wall outside of the Kaaba. This semicircled wall is a juz of the Kaaba. So when the Kaaba was built by Sayyiduna Ibrahim alayhi salam, it was a cuboid, and the hatim was part of that building. So that is upon the hatim is upon the original foundations laid by Ibrahim alayhi salam. It was a cuboid building. So he built it according to a cuboid. Later on, the Quraysh, in the lifetime of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Kaaba had been destroyed a few times before this, but during the time of the Quraysh now, there were two main events that happened. Number one, there was a fire, okay, and number two, there was torrential rain. Both of these damaged the Kaaba severely. The Quraysh then decided to rebuild the Kaaba, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was there with them. So they got all of their pure wealth and they rebuilt the Kaaba. And they were planning to rebuild it on those foundations of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. However, they ran out of wealth. So they built it according to the cube shape and excluded the Hatim area. So the Kaaba remained like that until the passing of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the hadith is in Bukhari. The Messenger of Allah alayhi salam, he said, if my people were not new to Islam, I would have changed the Kaaba back to the same form that it was in the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam. But they've just accepted Islam, many of them. If I change the Kaaba, maybe they will become alienated, and they might find it ajib, strange. So he left it as it was, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So he left it like that. After him, okay, after the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wasallam, the Kaaba was rebuilt by Sayyiduna Abdullah ibn Zubayr. And Sayyiduna Abdullah ibn Zubayr radiyallahu an rebuilt the Kaaba according to the foundations of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So it became a cuboid building once again. Sayyiduna Abdullah ibn Zubayr, however, his khilafah did not last for very long. He was quickly murdered by Hajjaj bin Yusuf, by the forces of Yazid. Anyway, that took place. Hajjaj bin Yusuf became a leader. And Hajjaj bin Yusuf, he rebuilt the Kaaba again. This time he rebuilt it back to the cube shape that it is right now, excluding the Hatim. So he rebuilt it like that. Okay. Now came the time of Imam Malik rahimahullah. Okay. And in that time, the Khalifa suggested to Imam Malik that I wish to change the Kaaba back to the original form of Sayyidina Ibrahim. Imam Malik gave a fatwa. He said no. He said, do not change it. Why? Because it will become lu'bah. It will become a toy for all of the leaders who come after. And every Amir who comes after, they will want to change the Kaaba and make it their own version of the Kaaba and remodel the Kaaba. And the honor of the Kaaba, the nobility of the Kaaba in the eyes of the people, it will go. So Imam Malik said, rahimahullah, leave it how it is. So from that day on, it has been maintained in its current form. So that semicircle wall, that is part of the Kaaba. Okay. So doing tawaf, you can't cross in between. Now they've got the barriers out anyway, but you can't walk in between there. You have to go around that. Okay, because that's all part of the Kaaba. So tawaf wara al-hatim. وَالرَّمْيُ قَبْلَ الْحَلْقِ. Okay, and to perform the stoning, رَمْيُ جَمَرَةِ الْعَقَبَةِ يَوْمَ النَّحَرِ. And this is talking about specifically the stoning of Jamaratul Aqaba. Okay, the largest shaitan. Stoning that shaitan on the day of Nahr. Day of Nahr is what we have, the day of Eid al-Adha for us. That is Yawm al-Nahr, yani the day of slaughter. So that's the day of Eid al-Adha for those who are not performing the Hajj. Doing that rami, that stoning on that day, this is also wajib. Qabla al-halq, but this must be done before what? Before a person shaves or trims their hair. It doesn't matter what type of Hajj you're performing, سواء كان قارنا أو متمتعا أو مفردا, whether you're performing Hajj Ifrad or Hajj Qiran or Hajj Tamattu. In all three cases, you have to do your Rami of this Jamratul Aqaba on Yawm Nahar, and then you will do the Halq after that. Okay, the shave after that. Okay, next then, the next wajib. وذبح القارن والمتمتع بين الرمي والحلق إذا تعين الدم عليهما. Okay, you know the qarin and the mutamatti'. Okay, perhaps I should define these for you first of all. So you can write this as a note. I was going to mention this later, but I'll mention it now because it will be difficult to understand this ruling without this. So, Hajj is of three types. Okay, Hajj is of three types. The first type of Hajj is called Hajj Tamattu'. Hajj Tamattu'. What is Hajj Tamattu'? حج تمتع is أن يحرم بالعمرة في أشهر الحج ثم بعد الفراغ منها يحرم بالحج في تلك السنة. Hajj tamattu' means that an individual puts on an ihram with the intention of performing umrah, and you do that in the months of Hajj. In the months of Hajj. So Shawwal, Dhul Qa'dah, or Dhul Hijjah itself. So you perform, you put an ihram on in these months with the intention of performing umrah. So that's one intention, separate one. You make intention to do that umrah in the months of Hajj, okay? ثم بعد الفراغ منها يحرم بالحج في تلك السنة. And then you intend to wear a separate ihram for performing Hajj that same year. Okay, so this is Hajj Tamattu'. The word Tamattu' means enjoyment and pleasure because this is a comfortable Hajj. You take one ihram off and then you perform the other ihram when it's the days of Hajj. It's a lot easier. So it's called Hajj Tamattu'. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, he alayhi salatu was salam, he performed Hajj Tamattu'. Okay, he began performing his Hajj as a Hajj Tamattu' sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. But the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu was salam, Imam Tahawi mentions, he performed his he did his ihram for his Hajj before he did the tawaf of his umrah. وأفردها بالإحرام فصار بها قارنا. So he ended up doing Hajj Qiran sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Ab alayhi salatu wasalam did Hajj Qiran. So he did not do the Hajj Tamattu'. So the Hajj Tamattu', he started off like that, but he did the Hajj Qiran in the end alayhi salatu wasalam. So Hajj Tamattu' is that one. What is Hajj Qiran now? Hajj Qiran الجمع بين العمرة والحج بإحرام واحد. When a person does jama' between umrah and Hajj with one ihram. Qiran means to join. Okay? So Hajj Qiran is when you put one ihram on, and with that same ihram, you want to do what? You want to do Umrah and you want to do Hajj. Okay? أو الإهلال بالعمرة ثم يدخل عليها الحج قبل أن يأتي بأفعالها. Or an individual, what do? They perform their ihram, do the ihram for Umrah, but then they enter into the Hajj directly without performing the af'al of Umrah, without performing the Umrah, like the Rasul ﷺ did. Yeah. So those two surahs, Hajj Qiran. So either you do one ihram and then you do your Umrah, you don't do halq, you stay in ihram, and then you do your Hajj immediately after. Or an individual puts the ihram on and they don't do Umrah, but they immediately go towards the af'al, the actions of Hajj. This is also Hajj Qiran. All right then. And the third type of Hajj then is Hajj Ifrad. Ifrad means a singular Hajj. Okay, and this is what? الإهلال بالحج وحده في أشهره أو في غير أشهره عندما يجيزه والاعتمار بعد الفراغ من أعمال الحج لمن شاء. And your Hajj Ifrad is when you do one ihram purely for the sake of only performing Hajj. Okay, so you get one ihram on and you do that in the months of Hajj for the sake of performing Hajj. You do your Hajj After you've done your Hajj and you take your ihram off and you've completed that, then a person may do Umrah after that if they so desire. Okay, these are the three types of Hajj. The most rewarding one, according to the Hanafis, is the Hajj Qiran. This is the most rewarding according to the Hanafis. Okay. And that is because the Hajj Qiran is the most difficult one. Yani you're staying in Ihram for a long time. And it's not easy to stay in Ihram. There's, some person is uncomfortable and there's some difficulty, and you can't use certain things, can't do certain things. So there is some difficulty in that. Like it is the most rewarding. The Prophet ﷺ has told us the most rewarding Hajj is the one that has the most difficulty inside of it. Okay. Okay, so coming back to the ruling that we were discussing then, which wajib number was this? The Hajj Ifrad. Yeah, so Hajj Ifrad is when a person performs, they put on their Ihram only for the sake of Hajj. Only for the sake of Hajj. So you're not intending Umrah. Which number will be on? 17. Okay, so this is Wajib 17. So the Wajib number 17 is the one who is doing Hajj Qiran and the one who is doing Hajj Tamattu, for them to give their slaughter. For them to give their slaughter between their Rami and their Halq, yani between their stoning of the Jamara and between their shaving of their head. So anybody who is doing Hajj Qiran or Hajj Tamattu, what will you do? You will perform your Umrah. You remove that Ihram. Like let's say, for example, you're doing Hajj Tamattu is the most common, so we'll just deal with that. A person performs their Umrah, okay, take off their Ihram. Then on the days of Hajj, when the days of Hajj arrive, they will put their Ihram on once again, okay. You will perform your Tawaf al-Ziyarah, you will perform your Sa'i, okay. You will do your Wuquf Arafah, you will do your Muzdalifah, okay. And then come to the day of Nahr, this person will slaughter. But you will slaughter when? You will do Rami first, then slaughter, then you will do your Halq. Okay, so do the Rami of the Jamarat, stone the Jamarat first, then you will slaughter your animal, then you will shave your head. This is the order. So this order is wajib. This order is wajib for a person who's doing Hajj Tamattu or a person who's doing Hajj Qiran. And for a person who's doing Hajj Ifrad, this order is mustahab, unless that person did obligated a sacrifice. Yani a Hajj, the person who is doing a Hajj Ifrad, their sacrifice is not wajib. If they obligate it upon themselves, they give it as a nadhr, for example, then they must do that slaughter before they do the halq. Question. Is ihram necessary for tawaf al-ziyarah? Yes, ihram is necessary for tawaf al-ziyarah. It's from the faraid of Hajj. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Some scholars say you shouldn't do tawaf al-ziyarah at night time or after Maghrib, between Maghrib and Fajr, and some say you can. Which one is more beneficial?
The Tawaf Ziyarah should be performed on the day of Nahr in the daytime. So that should be before Maghrib. Yani, if there's too much, the only reason they're going to say that is because it's not possible in the daytime, isn't it? Okay. Doing the Tawaf Ziyarah on the day of Nahr is wajib. I'm not sure on what basis they're saying that. Have to see on what basis they are giving that. Like in doing Tawaf Ziyarah on the day of Nahr is a wajib. All right, then let's move on. وَذِبْحُهُمَا فِي أَيَّامِ النَّحْرِ, slaughtering the animal in the days of Nahr, this is also wajib, which we just mentioned. وَالْحَلْقُ فِي أَيَّامِ النَّحْرِ, next wajib then is to shave the head or to shorten the hair. This is also wajib. When does this need to be done? In the days of Nahr. What are the days of Nahr? Eid al-Adha and the day after, and the day after. These are ayyamun nahr. So that is 10th of Zulhijjah, 11th of Zulhijjah, 12th of Zulhijjah. You call these days your ayyamun nahr. Yani your slaughter can be done in any of those days. And it's the same for Qurbani. Okay? So they are the days of nahr. Acha. Then the ayyamut tashriq. What are the ayyamut tashriq? Ayyamut tashriq is 11th, 12th, and 13th of Zulhijjah. And so this, they are ayyamut tashriq. So the first three are the ayyamun nahr without tashriq, and the final three are the days of what? Tashriq, but the fourth and final day, that's a day of tashriq, it's not a day of nahr. Doing halq in the days of nahr, so that's either the 10th, 11th, or 12th of Zulhijjah. That's a wajib. Okay, it must be done in those days. وَالْحَلْقُ فِي الْحَرَمِ وَأَفْضَلُ مَوْضِعِهِ مِنَى لِلْحَاجِ وَالْمَرْوَ لِلْمُعْتَمِرِ. To do the halq in the haram. This is also a wajib. To do the halq in the haram. Yani a person can't leave the haram and then do the halq. You have to be within the vicinity of the haram when you're doing the halq. Where's the best place to do the halq? This all depends on practicality, of course. Lekin, the ulama have written that the best place to do the halq for a haji is Mina. And the best place to do the halq for the person doing umrah is Marwa. That's why you see a lot of people doing they're cutting the head, but they don't fulfill the wajib. Many of them just get a small piece and trim it. That's not fulfilling the wajib. And you're not allowed to come out of your ihram if you've done that. You'll have to, like I said, slaughter, you have to shave or shorten a quarter of the head. But the best place to do that, of course, practicality. It's not always possible to do it there. Again, this is just something which is mustahab. I'm not sure on when they doing it the halq on Hajj. Do they do it in Mina? They do it in Mina. So they've got the places there. Okay, next then. Any of these wajibat, a person misses any of these wajibat, what's the hukm? The slaughter has to be done in the haram, or can it be done anywhere else as long as it is done before your halq? The slaughter should be done in the haram. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, هَدْيًا بَالِغَ الْكَعْبَةِ هَدْيًا بَالِغَ الْكَعْبَةِ. That it should be a sacrifice which you are giving at the haram, at the Kaaba. Okay. If that's not yani at the haram, if this and I don't know how I know the Hajj on the Hajj package they do it for you, isn't it? And I don't know how they do it. Whether they do it inside the haram or whether they do it externally. They do it in Mina. So you're still inside the haram then, within the vicinity of the haram. So that will be fine. Okay, these wajibat then. حكم الواجب لزوم الدم بتركه. The hukm of the wajib, the ruling of the wajib, yani you miss any of these wajibat, what's the ruling? لزوم الدم بتركه. A person will have to give dam if you miss any of these wajibat. What does dam mean? Dam means you will have to give a slaughter of an animal, and you'll have to give a sacrifice. Okay? Sacrifice of a sheep. Damul jinaya. بتركه كل واجب من واجباته إذا كان بغير عذر إلا صلاة الطواف فإنها عبادة مستقلة حيث إنها متصلة من وجه ومنفصلة من أخرى. The Imam says every single wajib that is missed, if it is without any excuse, then you will have to give a sacrifice of the sheep. The only exception to this is the 2 rak'at after the tawaf. They can be performed anyway. Okay, so if they are not performed then there is no dam upon an individual. وَيُجْزِئُهُ الْحَجُّ سَوَاءٌ تَرَكَهُ عَمَدًا وَسَهْوًا. If a person leaves any of these wajibat, whether deliberately or forgetfully, the hajj will still be done. Your hajj will still be done. You fulfill the arkan, you fulfill the wajibat, you fulfill the fara'id. However, a person will be sinful for doing so. Okay. Okay, that concludes the wajibat of hajj.
Did you say that's one sacrifice for the wajibat you missed?
No, with kafarat, when you're doing any type of kafara, one kafara suffices for all of your penalties.
Is there like a limit of like how many wajib actions you can make?
No. No, there's no limit. Khair. Those are the wajibat of Hajj. Tomorrow, inshallah, what we're going to do is, now that we've understood the fara'id and the wajibat, we're going to run through the sunnah actions. But tomorrow, inshallah, we'll go through step by step, day by day, what the actions of Hajj will be and how they will be performed. So tomorrow, inshallah, we'll go through that. So day by day, how the actions of Hajj are performed. Inshallah, we'll do all of that tomorrow, bi-iznillah. Go through in some detail so we understand step by step how every action should be done properly. Following that, then inshallah, once we've done, so tomorrow's Wednesday, we'll do that on Wednesday, inshallah. On Thursday, what we're going to discuss is the penalties. So the makruhat of Hajj and those things which nullify the Hajj, and then what are the penalties that a person will have to give if they do any actions. Mathalan, if you put perfume on your hands, what would have to happen? If you removed hair, what would you have to do? All these things, inshallah, we will discuss. And then finally, on Friday, inshallah, the final discussion will be the discussion of the ziyarah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the adab of ziyarah, the method of ziyarah, all of this, inshallah, we'll discuss on Friday, bi'iznillah. And that will conclude our course, giving you an overview. Baki, if there's any questions, any particular fatwa that a person needs, they can ask, and those matters can be dealt with as well, inshallah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barik wa sallim wa salli alayhi. Are there any questions?
You know when you're doing your site and then you kind of like mess up and you don't know how many you've done or